Well, new controversy over a former Mexican government official wanted for embezzling millions of dollars. Arrested in Texas this month, then promptly ordered to be released by the State Department. Lawmakers were outraged, and the State Department then rescinded the order, but the suspect was already gone. Unemployment falling to the lowest level in nearly 4 years last week. The Labor Department saying weekly applications for jobless benefits dropped by 13,000. And General Motors reporting its largest profit ever. The 103-year-old company made $7.6 billion last year, up 62% from 2010 and the height of the Detroit collapse. Well, there are new questions today about a Washington Post report suggesting some of the president's big donors have collected about $4 billion in taxpayer-funded investments from the Energy Department. The Republican National Committee quick to jump on the news, producing this ad showing or purporting to who got what, and raising the question, are the president's donors influencing big money decisions at the Energy Department? Leslie Marshall is a syndicated radio talk show host and a Fox News contributor, and Lars Larson is a syndicated radio host with Compass Media Networks. Okay, panel, thank you both so much for being here. So the Post has a comprehensive piece talking about how, for example, the department provided $2.4 billion in public funding to clean energy companies at which this guy, Sanjay Wagle, used to work. Now, why do we care that Sanjay Wagle used to work at companies that got $2.4 billion in taxpayer monies? Because that guy was tapped by the Energy Department to be their consultant on green energy investments. So, what does Sanjay apparently say? It looks like he said, hey, consider my former companies. They'd be a great investment. And now the Post is raising questions about the propriety of that, Lars. Should it be?
Hey. The whole thing, they should, absolutely. The whole thing sounds like dirty dealing at the White House to get the clean energy that's turning out not to be all that clean. Bad investments like Solyndra that go bankrupt and take down $500 million of the taxpayers' money. This sounds like the Obama administration to a T, the one that came into office saying, we're going to be transparent, we're going to show you everything. And what really kills me is the deafening silence from folks like Leslie Marshall, hi Leslie, about, remember the whole crowd that was complaining about Dick Cheney and Halliburton and all the supposed ties between the White House and energy. Now all of a sudden we've got a White House that's actually peddling energy to their political friends, and there's a deafening silence from all those critics on the left.
The Post finds, Leslie, that $3.9 billion of federal grants and financing flowed to 21 companies backed by firms with connections to at least 5 Obama administration staffers and advisors. Almost $4 billion in federal grants to 21 companies that have firms, have connections to the Obama administration. Unusual?
Actually, no, because Lars, hello, Lars, I'm speaking, so it's not deafening silence. But in 2001, you and your buddies were very silent when former President Bush and Dick Cheney were meeting with, like, the American Petroleum Corporation, etc. And you know what? You keep mentioning Solyndra when you're talking about approximately 40 companies that the federal government invested in for green and clean energy, as the president promised in campaigning that he was going to do and lay the foundation for. One out of all those investments went belly up. You know what I think this is, Lars? This is becoming like the 6 degrees of separation of Kevin Bacon. Because I ask you, Lars, how many clean and green energy startups do give money to Republicans? Quite frankly, any of these companies probably donates to the Democrats. And last time I checked, President Barack Obama is the only Democrat running this year.
Well, that is the question, Lars. If you're Barack Obama and you want to find people to advise the White House on, which companies to invest in on the energy sector, you're not going to go to somebody who has no connections to the energy sector. You got to get somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Of course not. And in fact, Leslie's objection to Dick Cheney meeting with energy companies to draft an energy policy is one thing. But remember, they were drafting an energy policy, not writing billions of dollars worth of checks. In this case, we've got a direct connection. A White House that raises money, then hands money to some of the people who raised money for the president's campaign. And Solyndra is a great example of that. And by the way, Leslie, there's a huge list of companies that have gone belly up after they got federal money. The president shouldn't have been investing in this sector.
But here's the question, Leslie, because it gets sort of convoluted. I think it's kind of hard to follow. But essentially what the Post is reporting is that, for example, this guy Sanjay Wagle, right? He's a venture capitalist. he was a Barack Obama fundraiser back in 2008. So he raises a bunch of money for Barack Obama to get into the office, into the White House. He gets into the White House. Then Sanjay says, okay, I was with this venture capital firm. I'll leave the firm, and I will come consult with you, President Obama, and your energy department. And then the energy department promptly turns around and gives his former firm $2.4 billion in public money. And so it leaves the American people asking themselves, this kind of stinks. It sounds like a payoff, Leslie.
You know what, Megan, I don't disagree that it doesn't sound good, but also let's look at specifics. The companies where the money were given are meritorious in what they do. And quite frankly, if you are in that industry and you have a candidate that says they're going to back what you're doing, you're going to back that candidate. And you're certainly going to back that candidate for re-election once he is president. That's the bottom line. The goal here is the same. There are only so many companies doing this, and these are the companies that are doing it and doing it best. And by the way, these are companies, not Solyndra, Lars, but these are companies that are creating jobs. These are companies. Tesla just opened to plant this in Fremont. Lars, how many people are going to gain employment as a result of this?
Quickly, Lars, and I got to go.
Megan, let me point out to Leslie, I know the Tesla case well. They were doing well. Then they got the federal money, a guarantee of $500 million. They've only spent $191 million of it. You know why? Because they canceled the second project, and because they promised a certain level of delivery to get that money, they didn't deliver. And they've already told the government that the second line of cars they were going to do, another federally subsidized line, which is a bad idea to begin with, that they aren't going to be able to do the second line, but they'd like to renegotiate and still get the $500 million, even though they didn't do what they promised to do, Leslie.
Well, the White House is stressing that its staffers and advisors who have ties to these venture capital firms did not make the funding decisions, but there are still obviously questions being raised. Panel, thank you both so much.
Well, and do you believe that, Megan?
Thanks, Megan.
I'll let the viewers decide that one. Thanks, Lars. Thanks, Leslie.